Hi, hello, good evening, good afternoon to everyone watching, and good evening to all the attendees. In this session, you'll gain an overview of the Indian university's application process and also learn about the undergraduate programs and fee structure at universities in India. Let me introduce both the panelists to you all. Kanji Khanna is an admissions and outreach specialist. She worked as a communications designer and teacher for over a decade before taking on education management. She's passionate about the promotion of liberal arts education in India, earlier as Director Outreach at Ashoka University, Director Communications and Outreach at Kriya University, and now she works as Senior Director Outreach and Admissions at Plaksha University. Moving on to the next panelist, that is Meenu. Meenu Arora is an assistant director at an outreach in Kriya University with a passion to counsel students to make informed career decisions and how to be prepared for Industry 4.0. She is a counseling psychologist and life skill trainer, having experience of more than 20 years in dealing with students, parents, and teachers. A trained counselor from NCRT and having done masters in education, masters in psychology, diploma in training and development, she specializes in parental counseling, educational counseling, career and college counseling also, along with conducting psychological workshops for counselors, students, parents, and teachers. She also conducts counselors training workshops and has designed curriculum for various counseling courses. We welcome you both to NextGenius webinar series. How do you feel
Thank you.
attending the webinars? It's your first time experience, right? How was it?
No, thank you, Helen. Thank you so much for having us here. I think it's an opportunity for us also to communicate with the larger audience. And as always, Next Genius has been providing us with that platform. I'm really looking forward to the conversations today.
Thank you, Kanchi ma'am. What do you feel, Meenu ma'am?
Yeah, I'm really excited because you know what happens when there are many universities and it becomes very diffused. Today, I think it is going to be a very focused discussion and I'm looking forward to it.
Great. So now it's time for us to move on to the main session. So the first question is to you, Kanji ma'am. Which are some of the different kinds of colleges and top universities in India?
So there are different kinds of universities. In fact, India has the largest number of institutions, educational institutions in the world. There are about more than 250 universities to begin with. There are central universities, there are deemed to be universities, there are private universities, state universities. But more importantly, what I'd like to talk about is the new age university. And you know, when we started out a decade ago, with planning for Ashoka, there were just very few quality education institutions, and they were like, you know, flashes of lightning across the country, not too many. And people equated private universities with us, and they looked at private universities with a little bit of hesitation and, you know, not that much trust, because there was mistrust around the quality that was being offered and also the cost that was being offered. But today, over a decade later, we realize that there are a lot of universities which are doing fantastic jobs across the country, very high quality learning, and at a cost that is very affordable to people. In fact, new age universities like Ashoka, Kriya, Plaksha, OP Jindal, Shiv Nadar, Symbiosis, Manipal, they also offer financial aid, they offer scholarships, so it's accessible. It's not really a hit on your pocket, but it's also very high quality education. So I think students of today are spoiled for choice, even in India, and they don't really have to make that trip overseas to do their undergraduate. And I personally believe that as for your undergrad, it's always best to do it closer home. It's only for the masters that you should really look at an overseas education. That's my point of view.
Thank you so much, Kanji ma'am. I really love the last point that it's better to pursue your bachelor's in India and then move on to another country for your master's for better exposure. Next question is for you, Meenu ma'am. Which are some of the most popular courses that students study in India?
So, you know, if I talk about the most popular courses in today's world in India, you know, I would like to throw a little light in the past also, in the sense that a few years back, students were very much interested in doing conventional courses and graduating in one discipline, and mostly central universities which are offering honors courses. So if you do say psychology honors, BCom honors, or political science honors, that used to be the thing and the popular thing among students. Now, as Kanchi was rightly mentioning, that 10 years back, when these new age universities slowly and gradually started mushrooming up, and now I see that the trend has changed. Now students want more of the interdisciplinary and the multidisciplinary approach, maybe because in school they are doing so many activities, they are so much exposed to all kinds of courses, so they don't want to restrict their choices to one subject. So I think the scope and the popularity of liberal arts and sciences program in India is increasing day by day. That is one. Secondly, if I talk about the most popular subjects, which I have seen in the past few years, I can say at least 7 to 8 years, psychology is becoming very, very popular. So, whether students are from commerce, humanities, or sciences, whether they have done psychology at the school level or not, whether they want to be psychologists or not, but they want to study psychology. So this is one subject which I have seen that, is becoming extremely popular. Secondly, I have seen economics is becoming very popular. Even if students are pursuing humanities, earlier humanities was seen as the stream which is meant for students who are not able to get above 90. If you are not good in studies, you take up humanities. But now the trend has changed totally. Even the top scorers or the high achievers, they also want to take up now humanities. So even if they are taking social studies or sciences, they want to have those kind of courses which give them an opportunity to do research. I see now high school students are getting into writing the research papers and doing little internships. So, that trend is changing. So subjects have not become subjects as per se. People are looking at that particular domain, in a holistic way. So that is a good change which I'm seeing. Of course, maybe in a few metro cities, not largely, but yes, that transformation is coming up. I can see that.
Great, ma'am. Now, moving on to the next question. This is a question for both of you. Maybe Kanji ma'am can answer first. That is, what is the cost of education in your universities? Could you tell us about the tuition fees, living expenses, etc.?
Sure. So Helen, studying at Plaksha is what I would say is that the cost is not a number, but it's a range. So students pay anything between 0 to 6.9 lakhs a year for tuition, and the living expenses is 1.8, which includes your hostel, your meals, your laundry, and everything else. Right. Why I say it's a range is because we have differential, fee structures for students coming from different backgrounds. We ask them to send us their financial documents, their family background, and we see how much the family can actually pay, and we charge only that much. So our first batch coming in, more than 70% of students are on financial aid. Just wanted to let you know. Yeah. So 6.9 is only for those who can really afford this kind of education and do not want to apply for financial aid. For everyone else, we have a lot of tuition waivers.
Thank you, ma'am. Meenu ma'am, the same question to you. What is the cost of education in your university, and could you tell us about tuition fees, living expenses, etc.?
So see, different universities have different kind of fee structure. So as I'm representing Kriya, so at Kriya University, as per the last session, 7.1 lakh per annum is the fee, is the tuition fee, and 1.6 lakh is the living expense. We do give financial aid, no scholarships, but yes, we do have financial aid. And for financial aid, once, like, we have 2 stages of admission process. So when they are filling up the application process, they don't need to fill up any financial documents. They don't need to attach any financial documents. But once they are selected, once they are moving to stage 2, then they can ask for the financial aid. And, we have certain brackets for them, in the sense that if the family income is below 35 lakhs, then they're eligible to apply for financial aid. But if the family income goes beyond 35 lakhs per annum, then they are not eligible. So this financial aid can go from 0 to 100%, like from 10% to 100%, I can say. And almost 25% students are on some or the other kind of financial aid.
Thank you,
And for
Meenu.
the next session, the revised fee structure, which might be a little hike, will be released soon in a day or two.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we move on to the next question, to all the attendees and to all those who are attending this session, you can feel free to post any questions regarding applying to Indian universities, about the fees, about the best universities, about particular courses. You can feel free to post any questions over here. We have Kanchi ma'am and Meenu ma'am to take up those questions. We'll be taking that towards the end. Moving on to the next question, maybe Kanji ma'am can take that up about the scholarship opportunities. Could you tell us some of the scholarship opportunities that you could give to the students?
So would you mean that at my university, at
Yes.
Plaksha right now? Okay.
Yes.
So Plaksha has both financial aid that I earlier spoke about and also merit scholarships. So there are some scholarships which are both merit and need based together. For example, the Bharti scholarship. So the Bharti Foundation gives out 20 scholarships to funds 20 scholars. Similarly, we have Axis Bank, which funds another 20 scholars. And these are merit come need. So meritorious students who also require financial assistance. And these are not just financial scholarships, they are also mentorship opportunities. So students who are Bharti scholars will also get opportunity to work at the Bharti companies, to get internships, projects there. And also these will become networks, like the Rhodes Scholarship has its own network of alumni. So Bharti scholars will have their own alumni network so that they can be supported while they are on campus, but also beyond that, even during their lifetime, they always support each other and they get the kind of support from the Bharti organizations. So there are so many different kinds of scholarships available in Plaksha. Financial aid, anyone can apply while they are applying for us for admission, but the other scholarships and fellowships that we have, those will be automatically granted to them when they start joining us. So we have a lot of scholarships and financial aid offers.
Superb. Maybe Kanji ma'am, we can take up a question that is regarding Plaksha. Sanyukta has asked, is economics course available at Plaksha University?
Yes, Samyukta, we have economics, but economics not as an individual as a pure major, but it's an interdisciplinary major, which is data science, economics, and business. So as an economics student, you would understand that data science is now becoming the core for any major, and everyone and anyone has to not only know how to analyze data, but also the structuring of data, maintaining of data, dealing with big data. So if you're an economist, you will encounter a lot of data and data related issues, right? So we think that data science and economics goes together very well. This is a degree for which you can apply even if you're not a science student. As long as you had math in your high school, you could be a humanities student or a social science student, commerce student. As long as you had math, you can apply for this degree. You will still get a BTech degree of 4 years, but it's called data science, economics, and business.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for taking up that question. Now, Meenu ma'am, could you tell us about some of the scholarship opportunities for students at your university?
So, Helen, at CREA, we don't have any merit scholarship. We have only financial aid. So if somebody wants to apply, it is need-based financial aid, and the admission process is not affected by the fact that you need financial aid. So it is totally need blind. The admission process is totally need blind, but we don't have any merit scholarship.
All right, Meenu ma'am. Now we have a question. So many students have asked about low universities in India. If any one of you could take up that question. One student has asked, what about the low universities in India? Another attendee has asked the top universities for law study in India. What do you feel? Any one of you can take that up?
I think Meenu is best equipped to answer this question. I'm sorry, I have very little experience with law universities. Go ahead, Neema.
Law you are asking about.
Yes.
So see, as far as law is concerned, of course, NLUs are there. So you go to any NLU and that's, of course, that's very good. And of course, ranking is available, but any NLU for that matter is good enough. Of course, Delhi University, and it offers both. You can do law in Delhi University after graduation, or maybe you can apply for the integrated course. And there are some private universities also which are offering law. So, and any university which is giving a law course, if you want to pursue a law course, then just make sure that whether that university has good internship opportunities or not. Because law is a field where you need a mentor for sure, to practice in that area. Because there are various specializations, and unless and until you have some kind of internships in those specializations, it will be very difficult for you to choose your specialization.
Great. Thanks for taking up that question. Now, Meenu ma'am, one more question. It's from Sara Rashid. She has asked, is economics course available at Kriya University?
Yeah, we do have economics as a major. And at Kriya, along with economics as a major, you can always take up another minor also. Like to complete a major, you need to do 16 to 18 courses. Along with that, you can choose a minor from any discipline. Maybe you can have a psychology, you can have computer science, you can have history. And in fact, we have a joint major also where you can do economics and environmental studies. So if you need total 18 courses to complete a major, then for the joint major, it becomes 9 courses in economics and 9 courses in environmental studies. In fact, suppose if you decide that, I want to do major in economics, a minor in psychology, but I feel computer science is also very, very important. So then you can take a concentration in computer science along with your major minor combination. And one thing I would like to highlight here, that in order to do economics, we don't have any prerequisite. Like even if you don't have maths in your high school, you can still apply for economics as major for your undergrad program at Kriya.
Thank you. Hope your question was answered. Now, the next question is for you, Kanchi ma'am. Could you tell us about the general application process for undergrad studies at the universities in India?
So Helen, I'm going to I'm going to interrupt this flow, and I'm going to answer one of the questions that the students has on the chat. I mean, there are 3 things that I can see people are asking over and over again. One is engineering universities, one is integrated courses, and one is BBA. I'd like to take one at a time. I think with BBA, I want everyone to understand that a BBA introduces you to how to run a business, right? And then later on, most students who do BBA also do an MBA. And when you do an MBA, most of what you learned in BBA is repeated along with case study based learning, right? So if you're doing a BBA, MBA, you are practically learning how to run a business, but you don't know which domain or which business, right? So it's always better. I always guide students to not do a BBA, but do a technical degree. By technical or a professional degree, it could be any discipline. It could be economics, it could be psychology, it could be fine arts, it could be civil engineering, it could be anything, and then do an MBA. Because then what happens is, suppose you do civil engineering and then you do MBA, then you get hired by infrastructure companies. If you're an artist and you do MBA, you get hired by advertising agencies. If you're a psychologist and you do MBA, you're then hired by companies which are doing consumer research. So you have something which is known as domain knowledge, right? A particular industry or a particular domain, and you are a specialist at that. So doing a BBA, MBA is not 5 years in understanding how to run a business is really not that great an idea. Get some technical expertise in your undergrad, then do an MBA. That makes more sense. As far as integrated programs are concerned, if you're joining an institution which is very, very reputed, then it makes sense to do an integrated program with them. But if you're joining a university, you actually get so many opportunities to create your own program. Then you are not signing up for a program for 5 years. What happens if after 2 years you think, okay, this is not working for me? You can't change. But if you join a BA, a 3-year or a 4-year degree, You know it is this, and I can combine it with multiple different masters. If you're doing, say, computer science in your undergrad, you can combine it with policy, with management, with finance, with so many other things. But when you do an integrated, you're committing yourself to 5 to 6 years of something which you don't even know you're sure of, right? Because you're going to start your degree at 18 years of age. You still haven't got the exposure. So I'm not a fan of integrated courses. I really think you should take it one step at a time. And at every step, you will realize, students, that you change your mind. At 18, you think you love something. 19, you start understanding yourself better. At 21, you really understand what you want to do. And that's when you should choose your masters. So I'm really not a fan of all those integrated courses as much, but that's my personal opinion, and it could differ from yours and from Meenu's as well, I'm sure. As far as engineering is concerned, traditional engineering has been very, very traditional. And it's been continuing the same things. We are teaching children to work on shop floors, which don't even exist anymore, right? So you need to do a course which introduces you to what the new age engineering is. So the new age engineering is a combination of the Internet of Things, of robots, and robotic and machines which are learning, right? So it's no longer about machines which were there 20 years or 30 years ago or 50 years ago. And some of our programs are still teaching you about those machines and not telling you about intelligent machines. So choose a program that keeps you ahead of the curve. That would be my advice. Sorry, Helen, I answered questions, but they were coming repeatedly, and I thought it was important to address those. And you asked me something about the admissions process at Plaksha.
Yes.
Well, the admissions at
But
Plaksha.
ma'am, you can talk in general, I guess. You can talk about Plaksha and also about undergraduate
Absolutely.
admissions in general, because there are a lot of questions coming up on, do these universities accept various curriculums such as ISC, IBA levels, and
Absolutely.
CBSE.
I'll
So
do
if you
that.
can address everything, it would be great.
Sure. And Meenu can add a little more, because she's also been introduced to many universities. So I think universities increasingly are realizing that it's not only one particular score that defines a student, right? There is no one score that can define you. You may have done, fantastically well at grade 12, bombed your JEE or your SAT, not done great at it, doesn't mean that you don't have the academic ability. It means you have the academic ability, but you may not have the skill to crack one particular exam. So increasingly, all of us are realizing we can't give you admission on one score. We want to get to know you better. And more so with the private universities. They want students who will fit into their program well, whether it is Indian universities, whether it is universities abroad. We want to see students who are excited about the courses that we are offering and also have the potential to do well in those. In other words, attitude as well as aptitude, both are equally important. Your scores matter, your school scores matter, your standardized scores matter, but also what matters is your attitude, the way you think, the way you problem solve, how collaborative you are. Do you have a growth mindset? Do you like learning new things? Are you conscious socially? Are you ready to make an impact in the world? Because all these universities that we are talking about here are universities which are highly selective, which are picking up students for a leadership role, right? I'm from Plaksha, and we are looking at students who will become technology leaders of tomorrow. Kriya will look at students who will become leaders in social impact, will affect policy, will become policy makers, will work on ground level to become. But we are making leaders out of you, right? That is why we are so very selective in whom we take in. So I think class 9th is when you should really start thinking about putting a good profile together. You should have extracurriculars. You should be working on projects which are co-curricular. You should keep your academic graph upwards. So, you can't be the kind of person who says, okay, 10th and 12th, I'm going to work hard because it's the board year. 9th and 10th, I'm going to relax, right? Because universities are increasingly looking at the consistent academic graph. So I think those are some of the things that universities are now looking at. But if specifically you ask me about Plaksha, we want tinkerers. And most of the time, students, you can go to the website of the university you like, and you will see what they're looking for. Very clearly, Plaksha has written, we are looking for tinkerers. So make sure you have those kind of projects. You go to MIT website, you go to Harvard website, you go to Yale website, they'll tell you exactly what they're looking for. Prepare your profile accordingly. So that's really my advice. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Kanchi ma'am, for explaining in detail. Now, Meenu ma'am, the same question to you. Could you tell us more about the applications and admission process in Indian universities? And also you could talk about from a perspective of Kriya University. And since you said that there are a lot of there is a lot of focus on psychology based courses, political science, it's emerging and a lot of students are taking up these courses in India. Could you tell us more about it, and could you tell us about the best universities students could take up for political science and psychology courses? It has come up in the chat, so if you could take that up.
Yes, I read that question, and Kanchi has beautifully explained that how Indian universities, new age universities, are looking at the profile. So students should keep it in mind. One basic distinction that the most of the central universities are looking at the cutoffs, but the private and the new age universities are looking at the holistic profile. So your academic as well as non-academic, as Kachi was explaining. And yes, a few other universities which have the entrance exam, but also keep it in mind, maybe by next year, even Delhi University or all the central universities, in fact, will have a common entrance exam. And most probably 99% it will be practiced by next year. So be prepared for that. So now coming to Kriya University, and before I talk about Kriya, one thing I would like to say, like Kanchi was explaining about, that you can start building up your profile. Just keep one thing in your mind when you're building up your profile for these new age universities, that how do you choose the activities? Don't choose the activities just because you feel that, oh, I would like to impress upon the university, because it is not a one-day affair. You are going to be there in the university for 3 years, and the university is going to look at it from your profile perspective. If you say, oh, I have done so many dance shows, I'm a great classical dancer, but then you are not performing in the college, that doesn't leave a good impression. So just try to be true to yourself, and just be careful when you're building up your profile. So maybe we can talk about it in detail later. So as far as Kriya University is concerned, we have two-stage process. The first stage is the online application. So right now, we have already started with a round one applications for the next session. So if you are in class 12, you can just go to the Kriya website and you can start filling up the application. So in this online application, it starts with the personal story. So this personal story is something where you talk about your life journey, what has helped you to evolve as a person as you are. So here in personal story, you don't need to talk about your research papers or your academic achievements or extracurricular activities. Just talk about yourself. Any incident, any experience of life which explains you best, which tells us, okay, who you are beyond this application, which tells us more about your aspirations, why do you want to join Kriya. So all those aspects are clear. Suppose if you feel that, oh, I'm not so good with the text, I cannot verbalize my thoughts into words on paper, then we are more than happy to receive your personal story in the form of a video.
Yes.
So, you can just make a video and you can be as creative as you want as far as personal story is concerned, right? And then we also need your academic transcripts from grade 9 to grade 12. We need your extracurricular and co-curricular activities, whatever you have done in terms of MUNs, debating, Olympiads, NTSC, whatever you have done. Just include it in your application. In fact, there is one space in the application where we give you a chance, an opportunity to write whatever you want to tell the admission officer, which can increase your chances of selection, or which you want the admission officer to take care, while reading your application. For example, your class 11th marks, there is a dip, or class 10, there is a dip. And you feel that, and you think that, because I was not medically fit, during that year, that's why my marks are low, or you have some kind of special need. So any such thing can be explained in that particular box, so that the admission officer knows you fully, in a holistic way. He can see your application, and he can read your application in a context. So if you're selected in stage 1, then you move to stage 2. Stage 2 is Kriya Immersion Day. So you get an invitation, for the Kriya Immersion Day, and which happens online now. So we call it as OKIC. You get 4-5 days. You select any one day. On that particular day, you participate in a group of 6 to 8 students, where there is a professor, there is an admission officer also. A case is presented to you, maybe in the form of a video or a text. You critically analyze the case, you give your own views, and then you make a group presentation, and before you actually appear for KIC, we will give you a platform to interact with your group, to form a rapport. So don't worry about that. So it will not be a new experience for you. After your group presentation, then you get a chance to interact with your professors. It is a conversation. There is no grilling about the general awareness and all that. So we just want to know you better. So in fact, students also have the equal opportunity to ask as many questions as they want to the professor. And after that, on any other day, we give you some time where you write in the individual reflective essay and a short 30-minute quantitative and logical reasoning test. So if you pass this second stage, you get an offer of Kriya University. So it is little different from other university. That's the reason I told you in little detail. Your second part, Helen, was about psychology and political science. So as far as psychology is concerned, yes, I can say it with a lot of conviction, because I myself, I have done my master's and undergrad in psychology. And those years, all the conventional universities, their curriculum will be conventionally designed, for psychology. It will be all psychology. And now we are moving towards the interconnected world. So for that, it is very, very important to have interwoven learning, because only then you can face that interconnected world. So when I see at Kriya's curriculum, the psychology course, it is so fascinating. I feel like doing my undergrad again, because, like at Kriya psychology, you will not be studying only the conventional topics, but you will also be studying that how psychology is used, as a sociologist, in the society, as a leader, how psychology and AI are connected. So there will be some papers which are mandatory, and there are some papers which are optional. So you can choose. So that way you get a better contemporary view of psychology, which is more of applied psychology. So this is how now psychology curriculums are changing. At least at Kriya, I see that tremendous change. Now, same goes for political science. So it is not a conventional course at political science. In fact, I will encourage all students to go to Kriya website and look at the course curriculum. If you look at the curriculum, you will see that how drastically it is different from any conventional course. In fact, in that window only, you will find another button which talks about careers. So, which are the careers related to psychology or political science. So that will give you an overall picture. And with last statement, I will stop. Psychology and political science. This is a brilliant combination. If I look at today's world, like one student, he said, I want to study psychology, but the moment he started doing an internship, he said, oh my God, I cannot work with kids. I don't want to do child psychology, but he was also interested in politics. So he has taken his major minor combination as psychology and political science, politics. So which is a very nice combination, because now you will see the government and all the political parties, they have a special position, for political strategists, which studies mass psychology and how elections can happen, what kind of messages can go. So it's a great field. So one can study two subjects together as well.
So there's a question that has come up on the same about psychology and political science, the integrated form of study. Does Korea University offer this course?
Yes, yes. So you can do a major in psychology and a minor in politics, or maybe vice versa. There's a
Okay,
possibility.
thank you so much. Now, there are a lot of questions that have come up on the learning disabilities and support for visually impaired students. Any one of you can take that up. Are there Indian universities who offer support to students who are visually impaired, who have some disabilities in learning? What do you feel?
So, I mean, I'm not really an expert at this, but I know we made it happen at Ashoka, because there was a student who applied to us, and he was an amazingly outstanding student, and we made it possible. He was visually impaired, and he's done fantastically well. I think he'll just be graduating, or he's probably just graduated. And it doesn't require much, to be honest. They have a software on which they can work on. It can be installed in their laptops, and all faculty has to do is that they have to provide resources on a Word document and not on PDFs, and their software can read that. And very small infrastructural changes, like you need handrails at certain places, and you need. So I don't think it's difficult for the new universities to build in those kind of capabilities. It's absolutely okay for you to apply. Most universities in India are open to students who are physically challenged. That's not a problem at all. If it's mental challenges, learning disabilities, then I think an evaluation by the university counselors is required. That becomes a part of the admissions process. And psychologists and counselors who are available on campus, they do a sort of an evaluation to see whether the university can support them. It's not about whether the student can learn, it's about whether the university has the resources to be able to support such a student. And at Plaksha, we'd be happy to get applications, and we'll be happy to evaluate those on the basis of whatever the context of the student is.
Thank you, ma'am. Any
I would
thoughts?
like to add.
Yeah.
I would like to add, Helen. As Kanchi rightly said, so all the universities actually have to have that kind of infrastructure. That is one of the criterias to get recognized by UGC. As per the norm, you should have. And as far as Kriya is concerned, yes, we do have all kinds of facilities. In fact, in the last session, one student was 100% visually impaired and one was 100% hearing impaired. We did modify even our entrance exam, as per the need of the student, not entrance, but the quantitative and the logical reasoning test which we have, we changed it as per the requirement, because he was 100% visually impaired, and one professor was constantly with him, to perform that particular test. So we do give that kind of, support. And in fact, when they are coming for the OKIC also, Kriya Immersion Case Day, in fact, when this student appeared, so before he actually came for Kriya Immersion Case Day, we gave an orientation to all the participants, before he joined, so that everybody is able to show their empathy, which is again a main criteria of selecting students for Kriya. So this is one. The second aspect about the learning disability, now it all depends what kind of learning disability you have. Some students need, first of all, we need to understand there's nothing wrong in that. It's just that these students learn differently. So it can be dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, or they just need some extra time. As per CBSE guidelines also, these students with special needs or with learning disability, they take, like for 3-hour test, they get 1 hour extra. So those things are also applicable at the university level, and we do take care. Some students who have dysgraphia, they need a writer, they need a scribe to write their papers. So that's fine, we give that kind of support also. And I'm sure, including Plaksha, all the universities now have strong student support services, the well-being, the psychologists are working with them. Like Kriya also has a tie-up with an organization, SCARF, where psychiatrists and psychologists are there. Right? So that support is given. One last thing, if a student has a learning disability, just keep it in mind. When we are in school, we get the assessments done by any private counselor who has the RCI number. RCI number is a Rehabilitation Council of India number. Every clinical psychologist who has an RCI number can only give a report on learning disability, and CBSE accepts that only. Only then you are given any kind of exemption. Now, when you move to the higher ed will not accept any private counselor report. Then you need to have a government hospital report. So just make sure that when you are in class 12, get your assessment done by a government hospital. And of course, they do have RCI numbers also, so that you don't face any problem in applying to a university.
Thank you so much, Meenu ma'am. Now, moving on to the last part of the session, that is, could you tell us more about your university? Maybe Kanji ma'am can take this up. Now, if you have a small presentation or something, you can share it at this point. You can briefly introduce your university to us in 3 to 4 minutes about your university,
do
the
that.
campus location, about the students, the major courses. Please go
I'll
ahead,
do
ma'am.
that. Sure. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
So I'm going to actually, yeah. So there are, you can see 4 majors on the screen, right? So Plaksha University is located in Mohali, which is a part of the Chandigarh Tri-City. And it's a 50-acre campus, which is built by architects from New York. And it's a beautifully designed campus, very state-of-the-art, very high-tech in its nature. And we've just taken in our first batch of first founding batch of undergraduate program students. We've been running another program for the last 3 years, but undergraduate BTech degrees, the one that you see on your screen, those are starting this year. So the first batch of 100 students are coming in immediately after Diwali. They've started studying online already with us. So the 4 majors we're offering is computer science and artificial intelligence. This is basically the CS degree, but now in today's age, you can't study computer science without machine learning and artificial intelligence. The second one is more like a mechanical, electrical, computer science degree together. I was talking about factories, which are now which run on robots. So it's not okay for you to do just a mechanical degree and then be effective on your jobs later. So it's a robotics degree. Biological systems engineering, one of the biggest jobs, or the maximum number of jobs are going to come up in this field. Engineering is being used in biology. All the vaccines that have come out are a feat of engineering and not really medical experts, just medical experts. So biological systems engineering. And the last one, which I said, was data science, business, and economics, for which you could also be a commerce or a humanities student. Students, the best part about studying at Plaksha is that for 1 year you do Common Core, and it's only in the second year, the third semester, that you start declaring your major. And this is not because this is not how the university will allocate. You can choose what major you want to do, right? So you can say, I want to do robotics or I want to do CS. It is not dependent on the marks that you get in the first year. That's how it happens in most engineering colleges, but not with us. So if all of you decide to do robotics, we are okay with it. And the last year, so the next 2.5 years, it's a 4-year degree. You will spend in working on projects, internships. It's very project-based learning. Again, very different from traditional engineering. 50-50 component of lab work and theory. We have a lot of industry connect. In fact, we've been set up by 70 business leaders. So you have ample and more opportunity. A very important part of learning at Plaksha is the entrepreneurship and research components of it. So we are setting up innovation hubs. We are setting up innovation labs for students to, if they have any startup ideas, we have Plaksha Seed Fund. So our funders are going to help you even with your ideas if you have any. And all this mentorship and guidance comes in form of faculty, academic advisory boards, and founders also. So it's a very different kind of engineering. We call it the new kind of engineer. We've got very high caliber faculty, which is about 16 people from across the world. They're handpicked to come. And if you just look at the places where they're from, Cambridge, IITs, Oxford, Purdue, Colorado, NTU, Singapore, Bangalore, IISER, Indian Institute of Statistics. So, I mean, these are literally people, this is like a dream team of faculty come together for you. We also have a lot of adjunct and visiting faculty from, across the world. And I've already actually spoken about the admissions process. So, somebody in their chat had asked, can you apply to an engineering computer science degree without JEE? Yes, you can at Plaksha. You can give us your grade 12 board marks, or you can give us SAT, KVPY, any of those, and we will evaluate your application just like we would evaluate with JEE. So that's not a problem at all. We also have 2 stages, the application form, fill in, give us your complete profile. We will throw an innovation challenge at you. We want to see how you think, and then we have an interview. So all that put together will, sort of get you admission into Plaksha. But any more questions, I'll be happy. I don't want to take too much time. Over to you, Meenu.
Thank you so much, Kanji ma'am. Maybe you can put in your contact details, like your mail ID on the chat box, so that students can contact you. Meenu ma'am, please go ahead and share your presentation, or please tell us more about Kriya University.
Yes. Just give me a second to share.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So I will try to skip a few slides. So Kriya University is basically situated in Sri City, which is almost 55 kilometers away from the Chennai airport. It is a fully residential campus. And Sri City in itself comes under specific economic zone. There are 187 industries from 27 countries. So as soon as you enter Sri City, you will realize that, okay, every second is the, some or the other kind of industry. So Kriya basically was started by, people from various walks of life. It may be entrepreneur, edupreneur like Kapil Vishwanathan or Raghuram Rajan, who is the RBI, ex-RBI governor. So all these people, they came together and they tried to see that what is exactly required, in the world of work. And this is how Kriya University was conceptualized. So our ecosystem somehow looks like this, that Kriya has 2 schools, CIAS, and that is a School of Interwoven Arts and Sciences, which gives the undergraduate degree, and IFMR, which is a graduate school of business and gives MBA degree for the past almost 20 years. IFMR has a long history in the sense that it is a almost 50 years old organization who was basically involved in the research. So we have various research centers also. A very famous one is the Center for Writing and Pedagogy. Then we have EPOD, we have CTFI, we have JPAL, LEAD. And in fact, last month, we launched, the Vice President of India launched a new center for humanities. Basically all the social studies related researches will go on there. And our undergrad students can work in these research centers. So whenever we say research centers, people think, oh, related to science, but it's not that. There are a lot of research projects which are based on the interdisciplinary approach. In fact, I saw one question in the Q&A where somebody is asking why Indian universities for liberal arts over overseas. And this is what, why do we want to go overseas? It's because of the research opportunities and the liberal arts program. So now when it is available here only, one can go for the postgrad outside, as Kanchi also mentioned. So we give 3 years BE honors and BSc honors degrees, and our 4th year is the optional year. One very good feature about Kriya is our teacher-student ratio. Every teacher, every professor is acting as a mentor for 7 to 8 students. So they work very closely with students. And another thing is that, at Kriya, we strongly believe in the learning process rather than emphasizing on the teaching process. So when I say learning process, you, the student, becomes very, very important for us. And we follow the interwoven learning approach, because as I said earlier, we are moving towards the interconnected world. And for that, we need to have the required skills, which can be, done through interwoven learning model. So these are the various things which we, 8 elements, which we emphasize on, and every lesson plan at Kriya is curated, keeping in mind all these 8 factors. All the courses are very writing intensive, research based. You will be writing research papers. You might be assessed on the basis of research papers. As a part of the interdisciplinary, it is not only that, for example, you are studying economics and environmental sciences together, but you will also be studying that how, for example, biological sciences can be studied through the lens of psychology, how psychology can be studied through the lens of history, how everything is interconnected, that is very important. Ethics, historicity, how every concept has been evolved. Whether you are studying social studies or psychology, data will be an important part, that how data is used in that particular discipline. So our faculty is also, very, very multifaceted. So if you're sitting in a class of English, maybe that day, the professor will play the piano and will teach you how music is related to physics, maths. So this is how the teaching is being done. I will not go into details of every professor, but yes, all professors are very, very multifaceted. Another important, I will just give you the structure, the course structure, the academic structure at CREA. So first year, like somebody was asking, when are you supposed to declare your major minor? So you can join CREA without declaring your major minor. So if you're confused, if you're undecided, or even if you have, you're sure that you want to study economics, for example, you're most welcome to join CREA. So first year, you don't need to declare, you will join a common batch. And all the students, irrespective of their major minor combinations, they will do the 11 skill courses and the core courses. These are the courses which will basically equip you with the transferable skills. And in this first year, the professor works with you as a mentor. The career service office works with you at the individual level, what kind of work you would like to do. And only after the first year, you declare your major minor combination. And also between year 1 and year 2, you can join any internship, summer programs, some kind of social impact project. So it's not mandatory, of course, but all our students have one or more, internships in hand. So here you can actually apply the skills which you have learned in the first year. And then between year 2 and year 3, again, there are internships. And in fact, now because you have studied major minor, now you can go for industry internships. And in the third year, you do a capstone thesis also. So in a capstone thesis, you actually work on a real industrial problem under the mentorship of a professor. So that gives you a clear picture. So these are the courses, 11 skill courses and the core courses, which every individual does in the first year. So starting from creative expression to design thinking to scientific reasoning, because, whether you're working as an economist or a journalist or a psychologist, you need all these skills. So these are the major and minors, like somebody was asking this question. So you can choose any major minor combination across different disciplines, because we don't teach in silos. We have different divisions and you can pick up any combination from here, major, minor, and concentration. In fact, apart from this, we have these 4 joint majors, which are specifically curated by CREA. So you can pick up any of these joint majors also, along with the concentration. That is totally up to you. You can take a screenshot if you want. And I will skip this. This is the career service office, which provides you externships, internships. We have a few partnerships with various universities where you can either do a summer program or you can go for master's progression, right? So, and these are very subject specific. For example, Chicago University Harris School of Public Policy, you can do a public policy summer program there. And this is the admission process, which I have already explained previously. These are our timelines. If there is any class 12 student, we have already started with our application on 10th of October. And the first round will finish on 10th of November. You can see your convenience and according to your timeline, pick up the best round which applies to you, right? And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you so much, Meenu ma'am. Again, if you can put up your contact details like your mail ID on the chat box, it would be really helpful. And with that, we have come to the end of the session. Any final piece of advice to all those who are watching the session, to all the high school students? Kanji ma'am.
Well, like I always say, it's an exciting time to be a student now. There are so many opportunities, there are so many options, there are such wonderful places to study. Do your research well, understand yourself, understand the place that is your dream place, and whether it should be a dream university or not, whether you fit in there, and then go ahead and apply. And just one small thing I'd like to say: whenever you are creating a profile, and we briefly touched upon it earlier, think of it like a Venn diagram where your interests should be major. You should first look at your own interests, then look at what the university is looking for, and see where are the overlaps. And that is the sweet spot. That is what you should apply for. That is where you will be the best fit. So, first, understand yourself, spend a few months at least thinking about what you really want to do in life. Don't make these choices because you're afraid, because you feel obliged under to, you're some kind of parental or peer pressure. Do them because you would love to do them, because this is what will define you as an individual, and this is what you will be doing for a very long time. So pick up courses that you're really passionate about, and you would love to pursue, and not because everyone else is doing it. That's all I'd like to say.
Thank you so much, Kanji ma'am. It was a really beautiful advice. Now, Meenu ma'am, any final thoughts, any final piece of advice you would like to share with the students?
I will extend what Kanchi ended with. So I will say that, always try to integrate your life journey with your career journey. I always say that, these are not two parallel lives. Don't say that, okay, I will do what I want after I retire. I often hear people saying that. So, and that makes me wonder that what were you doing for your entire life? So please integrate both. Don't just look at what is more popular. As you are looking for best fit university is also looking for best fit student. So whichever university you're applying for, just be yourself. Just don't fill up your CV with researches and papers and community service just for the sake of it. Do what you're actually passionate about, and accordingly choose a university rather than forcing yourself to fit into a university. So, just choose what you like. So that's my only advice. All the best. If you have any doubts, any clarifications needed, my email ID and phone number is there. Please contact me.
Again, it was a very valuable advice. Thanks a lot for joining us today evening. And thank you so much to all the attendees. Tomorrow we'll be having applying to Canadian universities. Thanks a lot and have a great evening, both Kaji ma'am and Meenu ma'am. It was great having you with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.